Hey guys, Kalen Anglos here, and today I want to talk about fuel utilization. If you're using mostly carbs or mostly fats, and how that is different between men and women as exercise intensity increases. So we know as exercise intensity increases, as it gets harder, our reliance for carbohydrates also increases. That's because carbohydrates are a quicker fuel source. They get ATP energy to us quicker. That allows us to use them at higher intensities, okay? Likewise, when that happens, if carbohydrates are going up, our fat utilization goes down. So you're either using carbohydrates or fats during exercise. As it gets more intense, you rely more on carbohydrates opposed to fats. What's interesting is this middle point here. This is called the crossover point. That's when we rely on the change from relying on fats to relying on carbohydrates. As you see here, as exercise intensity goes, there's a point where we start to rely, or we have to use carbohydrates because we're going so intense. The goal for athletes and for people training is to get this to be longer. We want to rely on fats for longer because it's a more efficient fuel. Not more efficient, but it gives us more energy. It gives us 32 ATP opposed to only 2 when you're using carbohydrates. What's interesting as well is when we look at men versus women. When we look at women, we actually see that they have a later crossover point. So women rely on fats for a longer period of time when compared to men. Men actually cross over to using carbohydrates sooner at the same level of intensity when compared to women. And of course, the big question here is why? Why do women have a later crossover point? Why do we see women using fats more efficiently for longer? There's a couple reasons. Number one is fiber type distribution. Women have more type 1 or slow twitch muscle fibers than males. These type 1 muscle fibers allow you to be better at oxidizing and using fats to produce energy. Women also have more circulating hormones and catecholamines that allow them to break down fats. So they have more of these in their body. They're more effective at doing this. They have more type 1 muscle fibers, and it allows them to have that later crossover point when compared to men. There's a couple other reasons in there, but those are the two main ones. More type 1 muscle fibers compared to men, and they also have the catecholamines and the hormones necessary to break down those fats and use them as a fuel source. So that's why they're more efficient. That's why women are more efficient at using fats compared to men, and that's why men rely more on carbohydrates. If we look at men, let me do this in a different color. If we look at men, they have more type 2 muscle fibers, those fast twitch muscle fibers which use carbohydrates. That's why we see them there. They also have more hormones and more enzymes that allow them to oxidize, to use type 2 muscle fibers and to break down glucose. They have a more effective glycolysis system, or not effective, but sooner glycolysis system. So as exercise intensity increases, we rely more on carbohydrates, and women see this prolonged compared to men for some of these reasons. Thanks for listening, guys.